Good morning, my friends. Today I'm going to start a little series that is going to review the Catholic Bible for children. Now, one of the series that I'm doing is also reviewing the Bible from start to finish. That was a little triggering, so I'm going to take a little break. And we're going to talk about the way children are taught in a very pretty, like, look at these, right? Look at these designs, the colors. That's obviously like that's Noah's Ark, rainbow. It's so pretty, cute, and sweet. And the way that these lessons are packaged and really prettily in a book that has, and I did check. I was like, I think I remember these stories being pretty pretty intense, and they are. So, but today's just the introduction. We're gonna read the introduction. I'm gonna do a little look at like some of the chapter titles, right? Because we are gonna go through Bible stories from, and they've been shortened and summarized for children. So we've got Noah's Ark. That one's always a fun one. I can't wait to read that one. The Tower of Babel, the plagues in Egypt. I'm just kind of going through a bunch of these, the death of Samson, David, and Saul. We get into the New Testament, right? We're going to talk about Jesus casting out a demon. We're going to talk about Jesus walking on water. We get through Jesus's life. There's going to be a lot of pretty stories, and then we're going to get to where Peter denies Jesus, where Jesus is scourged. Where Jesus is condemned, he carries his cross, he is crucified, he dies. Oh, this is going to be super fun. Right, and then he's buried. Looks like we also get to read where Stephen is stoned, stoning of Stephen. I don't know what that story is, but I'm excited to get there. And then the deaths of Peter and Paul. So that's just a little, we've got some chapters to go through. I may do a couple of chapters in a reading, but today we're just going to read the introduction. No pretty pictures with the intro, but the reason I want to read it is because of the way it's an introduction, right? You want your kids to read this or the parents to read this and be like, oh, yes, we're gonna share the message of God in a way that's good for children, right? And what I want to look at is how we teach children from a very young age that they're not good enough, and that they're broken, and that like it's our setup for an abusive relationship with God and the church. So the intro. All throughout the pages of the Old Testament, we meet a God who's so filled with love that he reaches out to his people again and again. The first pages of the Old Testament tell us what happened at the beginning of the world. God created the world and all that is in it, called Adam and Eve to live in his happiness, but they rebelled against him. God then called a holy people through Abraham and Sarah. I say Sarah, maybe it's Sarah, but I say Sarah. Apologize if that's incorrect. Anyway, he protected them against their enemies. He saved them from their slavery in Egypt through Moses. He made them a mighty nation with David as their king. And most important of all, he made a holy covenant with them that he would always be their God and they would always be his people. Such a protector, such a giver, this God. Even when his people turned away from him, even then, right? Even when the people turn away from him, God did not stop loving them. He punished them so that they would turn from their sins and turn back to him. He sent them prophets who taught them the ways of the Lord. He led them back from exile to the promised land. The final pages of the Old Testament show God's love is far beyond what we would expect. I don't know what were we expecting and how is it beyond that? I don't know, but okay. He promised his people that he would send a chosen one to call them out of their slavery to sin. He prepared them for the day when he would send his only son, Jesus, into our world. It's just so nice, right? Immediately, even just in the introduction, we're just going over the very basics. Like the very basics are created, given everything. He loves us so much. And then he, like, because he loves us, even when we turned away from him, whatever that means, right? He punished us because he loves us so much, right? He punished us so that we would turn away from sin and come back to him. Anyway, so that's the introduction. I hope you enjoy reading this with me. I'm sure there's other versions, but the stories are the same. They put the basics in here, and the stories are the same, and they're pretty horrific when you take a look at them, but you decide for yourself. Join me.